Hello, welcome to Sky Sweaty Record Review, episode 187, the only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the gym. So today I'm going to be reviewing an album, or an EP really, by Gesaffelstein called Novo Sonic System. And I want you to stay tuned till the end. I'm trying out that thing. Where I'm going to tell you about a new outrageous character from the gym, who's one of the funniest people I've ever seen at the gym. I'll tell you that at the end. But Gesaffelstein. So Gesaffelstein is an electronic dance music producer, and I think to a certain extent you could define this show. One of the key things I try to do on this show is define what is it that I like about electronic music, and when is it good, and what terms can we use to describe it. I, of course, developed my quickly forgotten BAMC scale, which I'll get back to, but I first want to get one, I want to sort of reference a moment in my life that was very sweet. You see Daft Punk behind me, and in 2010, they released the Tron Legacy soundtrack. Now, before I owned this on vinyl, I was debating whether or not to buy it on iTunes, back when people bought music on iTunes. And I was thinking about it, and the things I would scan through it, and most of the tracks were just kind of atmospheric and not bland, but more orchestral than electronic dance. And then, of course, we got to the song Derezzed, and that was fine. But the thing is, I was listening with my son, my 6-year-old son. He's a great drummer, great guy, loves music, and he liked Daft Punk. But he's 6 years old. And so I'm like, for some reason, I'm like talking to him like he's just a friend, you know? Like, should we buy the Tron Legacy soundtrack? And finally the track End of Line comes on. Do 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 do, just like that. Very simple but pulsing rhythmic song. And uncontrollably, my son just starts going do 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 do, like just like the rhythm got to his 6-year-old body in a way that nothing else could. And when he started doing that little dance, I bought the album on iTunes. I, of course, love the movie. The soundtrack's great. Hey, there they are. And that's what I got when I listened to the first track off this album, Orc. O-R-C-K? Not really sure what that title means. It starts off with this great track that has this like double-handed hi-hat beat. The drums even sound kind of real. It's got kind of like a hey, hey going on in the background, almost like a jock jam thing. And I realized it gave me that same feeling. And it definitely gave me a really strong Daft Punk vibe. Now, it's not just because he's French, but I want to talk a little bit about this sort of problem that I have, where almost every time I talk about an electronic dance music group, I somehow end up referencing Daft Punk. Well, you see, it's a selection bias. You see, I only review things that I like, right? I don't bother reviewing things that I think are garbage. And much of what I like about electronic dance music came from Daft Punk. But also, I mean, they're the best. It would be like if I was doing a show about folk music. And how often would Bob Dylan come up? I mean, he has to come up. Reggae, Bob Marley. Like, that's the status that they inhabit. This sort of like super powerful, super influential, capable of shifting movements and entire continents of music with, just a flick of their finger, So that's why. That's my little explanation as to why. But I want to actually make it a little bit more specific. I don't actually think that this is a Daft Punk inspired album. Instead, I think it's just a Thomas Bangalter, or Thomas Bongletter, as you might say, influenced album. So I'm going to do something here and just make it clear. I got the guys in the back, but I'm pretty sure, and I don't know, I'm not exactly a Daft Punk expert as much as I am a fanatic, but I'm going to say that it's not really a Daft Punk inspired album. I think it's particularly the production style of Thomas Bangalter. And I'll tell you why. Because I think the key to this Gesaffelstein album is actually a different record. Irreversible. The soundtrack to the amazing and extraordinarily uncomfortable movie starring Maria Bello. And don't watch this movie if you don't like being depressed. If you saw The Joker and you were like, oh man, that's an emotionally harrowing movie. You've seen nothing till you've seen Irreversible. But this is a soundtrack that was done just by Thomas. And I think this is the strongest influence on Gesaffelstein in a really, really good way. This album is very similar in the way that I listened to it. Actually, when I first listened to this, I was in France, and I was in one of those little CD towers where you would skip and listen. And I had to kind of keep skipping through to find tracks that I liked, tracks that I thought were interesting and exciting. Because for the most part, it was kind of downbeat. But there were a couple tracks like Night Beats, Spinal Scratch, that had this sort of like upbeat feel that I was looking for. And I think those are the greatest influence on Gesaffelstein. But let's get back to my BAMC scale. So I developed this a while ago when I did some EDM review. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I describe what it is that I like? And I think if you take all EDM, you could boil it down to beats, atmosphere, melody, sounds, and interest. So I'll go by each one of them. First of all, beats. Gesaffelstein is excellent because his beats are very simple. They're right, if that makes sense. I mean, the opening song, like I said, has that double-handed hi-hat that's really nice. It might be a real drummer or just like actual drum samples as opposed to like drum machine sounds. But then other tracks, like the second track, are just kind of like boom, bish, and it's a nice interplay in between those. Nothing particularly flashy, but the whole thing is extremely danceable, extremely shruggable. You know, it kind of gets you moving in that way, and the drum beats completely help that feeling. As far as atmosphere goes, that's the highlight of this record. The atmosphere is excellent. It's sort of right between the kind of hopeful coolness of End of Line and the gritty depressingness of Irreversible. It's because that's how it really feels to me. It's this slightly menacing feel that you get with Thomas Bangalter's music. Thomas Bangalter. I actually don't know how you pronounce that in English. Thomas. The feel that you get with him, where I don't know, but the sense that I get is that mainly what he's contributing is this sort of more danceable, more pulsing feeling. And it gives his music the same feeling that Gesaffelstein has, this menacing, pulsing feeling. The title track off of Novo Sonic System is the best example. And I'm going to play you just a little bit of it so that you get an idea of what it sounds like and what it is. Although I think I somehow forgot my computer. So, I try not to edit this show. I left my computer upstairs. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to play it now and edit it over, okay? This show, by the way, I'm getting more subscribers. Part of this show is that I'm really consistent. I do like 3 to 4 to 5 episodes a week. And part of that is that I don't edit. I don't write scripts, and I don't think a ton. I don't do a ton of research. I just rely on what I believe to be my sort of acumen and observational ability. So that leads to moments like me standing up for no reason. All right. So listen to the atmosphere, the insanely excellent atmosphere that is established by Novo Sonic System by Gesaffelstein. Okay. And this really, for the atmosphere, I think you see it, and it's almost even biting. My favorite track, Night Beats, off of Irreversible. Just for fun, listen to them back to back. Novo Sonic System is almost an inversion of what's going on, in particular with those bams that kind of go on underneath. Bam. Now that's a great feeling and a great sound, and something which I think more electronic musicians should use. The sort of staccato of an arpeggiator with a underlying sound that flat, like the nice mixture of something very staccato with something very legato. That's the opposite of staccato, right? Jeez. Okay, so that's beats and atmosphere. Melody, none. There's like no melody in the whole album, and I think it's fine. I mean, the only melody there is the arpeggiator that sometimes does things and gets kind of catchy, but it's not really about catchiness. I mean, there's a song called Dance X great track, and he just says dance, X, and that's it. There's no one being like, can you feel the dancing in my X, right? And I think that's for the purposes of this record, for the purposes of this feeling that he's achieving, this atmosphere he's achieving, better than if there was any. Sounds. So often I like electronic music to have lots of great, interesting sounds. In general, this is fairly minimal. And it's kind of like the beats. There aren't that many interesting sounds, but the sounds that are chosen are excellent. A track Igneo is sort of an exception. Some nice, super compressed keyboard, electronic synthesizer sounds. A little bit like scratch behind it. Has kind of like this building static behind it, which creates a nice lot of tension. Again, like Contact off of Random Access Memories. I'm telling you, they're everywhere. But in general, it's the example. It's sort of a clean, grimy sound. By that I mean like it feels underground and pulsing, but there's not too much extra dirt or grime or texture laid on top of it. And then finally, interest. Like, do I find it interesting? Do I like it? And I absolutely do. It's good to dance to. It's good to exercise to. Like all the way through, the last track was my least favorite track. It's like Metallo Logic or something like that. But it's fine. Like the whole thing is so consistent. It's 16 minutes of just like this, the section I played for you. Pulsing, grinding, excellent, Bangalte-like music. It really is a lot like End of Line and Night Beats. It's funny because I did review Gesaffelstein before when he did a single with The Weeknd. And it's kind of funny because, Gesaffelstein working with The Weeknd. So if Gesaffelstein is part of the inspiration from Daft Punk, and Daft Punk worked with The Weeknd before, but actually Daft Punk only works with The Weeknd, I think, because they wish they could work with Michael Jackson, and he's the next best thing. So it's kind of this funny, like, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with series of collaborations. And of course, Gesaffelstein was also part of the production tree off of Yeezus by Kanye, which goes back to my same thing. Why do I keep talking about Kanye and Daft Punk? Because for basically any good music that's being made now, in any other field other than rock and roll, it has to have a direct or indirect influence from those two forces. Well, that's kind of a bold statement. Okay, so I promised you I would tell you about the weirdest guy I've seen at the gym. This dude shows up and he has like a gray sweatshirt and he has kind of like Bruce Dern hair, like kind of like gray hair. It's like all like kind of shooting up. And he looks like he doesn't really go to the gym. He's wearing gray socks, which is a weird move. But he's wearing bleached, cut off jeans as shorts. And they're just a little too short. Not quite never nude short, but quite short. And then he doesn't have a belt. So he's on the elliptical and he's got these like frilly cut off jeans. And he just, I find that to be heroic. Somebody who doesn't want to go to the gym, who's not ready to go to the gym, but knows he's got to give it a shot. So to you, on behalf of you, cut off jean guy, Thomas Bangalte, I say that this is the end of the episode. And there's the camera. That was a weird ending. Why did I jump to the end so quickly? Oh well, doesn't matter. All right, until next time, there's the camera.